So, our guest today is going to help me to answer this question. Can we really turn back the hands of time? So, we are a youth obsessed culture, right? So, everything is focused upon looking younger, feeling younger, acting younger, recapturing those glory days. We're bombarded with all of these messages, right? In the pursuit of reclaiming this youth. So, it's in our commercials, right? So all of your anti-aging creams that, you're going to put this cream on your face and then all of a sudden you're going to be, look like you did when you were 16 again. You can dress more youthfully and, procedures to get rid of wrinkles and all of that. And, there's it's not just the surface aesthetics of it, right? Because we know that there's definitely a thing called ageism. And so, when you look older, act older, sometimes that can have some negative blowback to you, particularly professionally. And so, we talk about approaching, for example, age 30. I don't know why we picked 30, but age 30 was just like most people dread turning 30, like it's the end of the world or whatever. And so, but the flip side of that is that dying young isn't cute either, right? Nobody wants that. At least, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't. And of course, in the media, women over 50 years old are rarely featured in the mainstream. I'm happy to say that there are ladies that are changing that. Viola Davis, for example, Jennifer Lopez, for example, are in their 50s and are fabulous looking, acting, being, and all of that. And so, they are really, really, them and others are changing our mindset of what it is to age and to age well. But, so let me ask you, to be honest, many of us want to recapture something in their youth, right? So maybe it's your energy level, maybe it's your metabolism, maybe it is your sexual potency or desire. There's something about when you were younger that you now wish you could recapture. And that was like the opening song by Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle. So if I could put time in a bottle, is what that song is talking about. But going beyond the surface, right? Our cells are aging no matter how youthful your face is. Your body is as old as you are, right? And sometimes the stresses that we put on our bodies will accelerate that cellular aging process. So when we talk about cellular stress, right? So for example, too much sun exposure without UV protection, dehydration, increased caffeine intake, smoking, poor nutrition, pollution, radiation, inflammation, alcohol, exposure to pesticides and other chemicals, and poor or lack of sleep. All of these things age us because I know that when I have not had enough to drink, I can look at my face and it's just like, ooh, wait a minute. I don't have that plumpness in my face. Now, my face is not as plump as it was when I was, 16, 20. But, still, I notice that small change when I do not hydrate well, for example, or when I don't get enough sleep. I can see it in my face. We also can talk about oxidative stress, right? Which is the imbalance of free radicals and antioxidants in the body, which can lead to cell and tissue damage. So this is what is happening beneath the surface. And that is what we are going to talk about today, and what things we can do to change that, because uncontrolled oxidative stress can accelerate the aging process and can damage the body's cells, proteins, and DNA, and has been shown to contribute to the development of some diseases. So, conditions linked to oxidative stress: cancer, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, inflammatory disorders, chronic fatigue syndrome, asthma, and male infertility, just to name a few. If I could turn back time, that's something that we all wish that we can do, and maybe we actually can do it. So let me tell you all about our guest today. Our guest today is Dr. Shawn Weaver McKee. Dr. McKee is a board certified neuroradiologist, so I'm going to let her tell you about that. In addition to that, she is a two-time 140.6 mile Ironman triathlete and ultra marathoner. So let me tell you, I run half marathons, and so for people to do triathlons, so that's a marathon and you're biking a distance and you're swimming a distance, that's like top shelf right there. That's top level. She is married to a gastroenterologist and is the mom of two sons in college. She is the president of the Vitality MD, which specializes in nutrigenomics and how we can turn on cells to turn back time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Dr. Shawn Weaver McKee. Dr. McKee.
Hello, Karina.
Hello. How are you?
I am fabulous. What an amazing introduction. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
I love your preview of the problem that we're all facing.
Thank you very, very much. So let's get into this. Well, first of all, tell us what a neuroradiologist is and does.
All right. I am the subspecialization doctor that you never want to need my services, because that means you have something going on with your brain or your spine. I read MRIs primarily of the brain and spine, and so, I can tell you why you have a headache, possibly. I can tell you why you have a ringing in your ear or why your eyes are bulging or whatever, but I really haven't ever been able to fix it.
That is the thing. Finding the problem and fixing the problem are always two separate areas there. So now, getting into nutrigenomics, tell us what that is.
Well, nutrigenomics, I'm hearing a feedback. Are you hearing it?
No, I'm not hearing it.
Excellent. I will ignore it. Nutrigenomics is using targeted nutritional compounds in science, the combination of science and nature, to positively impact your genes in order to achieve a desired outcome, i.e., healthy vitality. And it's all about the genes that we express, not so much the genes that we're born with, although we hope we're not born with genes that increase our likelihood for bad things to happen down the road. But the really good news is it's not so much about what genes you're born with, it's more about what genes your body expresses. So, for example, the opposite of nutrigenomics would be like a McDonald's diet. You are impacting the genes in the opposite direction that you want. You're causing the genes that code for inflammation and all kinds of horrible things to be expressed, and you're suppressing the ones that code for healing and recovery and regeneration.
So we can do all of that just by what we put into our body.
Absolutely. Every single thing you put into your mouth is a message for your genes. Think about that.
I like that.
Yes. Food is really is instructions for our DNA.
Gotcha. So when I was doing my research, one of the questions that I saw that came up was, is this changing my DNA?
It's actually not changing your DNA. The genes you're born with, you're stuck with, right?
Right.
All it's doing is changing what's called your epigenome. So you have your genome, that's your, CTs, A's, and G's, those nucleic acids that form your DNA, double-stranded helix. But there's something called the epigenome, which is basically signals. It's really switches. If you think about the end result of, say, let's just say a thyroid putting out a hormone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the end result. That's a big job, right? But it starts with this tiny, tiny little signal that tells the DNA to produce a compound. And I like to think of it like dominoes, and you can actually knock over a wall-sized domino starting with a postage stamped domino because of that cascade of events, and that's what happens inside our body.
Excellent, excellent. So just to go a little bit further, so within our DNA is a code for just about everything that will happen to our body. And what Dr. McKee is suggesting is that depending upon our nutrition, which we know most of us have poor nutrition anyway, we're not really getting enough of the nutrients that we really truly need. Depending upon the level of nutrition that you have within your body, that you can express some things that are good, or you can express some things that are not so great. So that's why the McDonald's diet is not necessarily the best thing in terms of living a healthy lifestyle, unless you're getting the salads, which, who goes to McDonald's for a salad, but, I don't judge, whatever. So now, how does nutrigenomics apply to, not just to me, I'm not saying me specifically, but to the individual? Like, how can I turn on the expressions that I want?
All right. Well, your body has pathways. Those pathways have switches. And if you think of anything that because of what you've been reading and hearing in the news that's good for you, say sauna or vitamin D3 or even turmeric and ginger. Those things all signal a specific pathway in our body. One of them is the NRF2 pathway, and it's a long string of words. You don't need to know what they stand for, but it basically sounds like the little football we used to play with as kids. So the NRF2 pathway has been called the master regulator of the body's cytoprotective response, which means cellular protection. It's been called the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventive breakthrough in the history of medicine because when it's turned on, your body produces several hundred proteins that are known to reduce inflammation, and it also turns off those proteins that are known to produce inflammation. So you've got anti-inflammatory proteins being produced. You've got antioxidant. You've heard of antioxidants, right? Vitamin C.
That's right. Yeah.
We have proteins and peptides in our body that are millions of times more effective than vitamin C. You eat a blueberry, you're going to get 9,000 what they call ORAC, and that's oxidant reduction in something capacity. It's 9,000. Whereas your own molecule of, say, something called superoxide dismutase, or SOD, neutralizes 1 million every second for days, and then it's replaced with another molecule. So do you want the one and done team, which is blueberries, which you definitely need to eat blueberries. They have all kinds of other compounds, and they help make up your tissues. You are what you eat. But you also want your own good guys, those molecules and enzymes that your body used to make when you were young in overabundance. You want those ramped up back to the level that it was, or that they were when you were a child. Unfortunately, as we get older, it's like we have a dimmer switch that just gets turned down and down and down with each passing year. And especially, you notice that at the decade mark, you mentioned over 30. Yes, that's the reason that people notice that is because that switch has just hit that critical mass where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to rest after, doing something that you used to be able to do all day.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that even in my own self, and that's one of the things that, when and I think a lot of people are this way, when we want to just say, oh, this is just the effect of aging. I'm just getting old. And in many ways, some of us have resigned ourselves to that, and some of us are fighting the good fight still, right? But, it is not necessarily just that, right? It is all of what we are doing, but it is really, really challenging because, as you mentioned, like with the blueberries. So when once upon a time, I was looking at the FDA recommended daily allowances of what I needed for fiber and, antioxidants. And basically I would spend my whole day eating. Exactly. Because that was the way that I could get in, like the recommended amount, like fiber, for example. You have to eat an incredible amount of roughage in order to have the amount of fiber that you really, really, truly need. And it's like,
So right.
I have to work. I want to go outside. I want to do some other things besides sit here and eat broccoli all day long. Not that
Right.
broccoli's great.
You're not a
But
professional eater.
right. But you almost have to be in order to eat a healthy, in order to eat healthy. And that becomes, it can make you crazy almost because you're trying to pursue this. And I will also add, it's not cheap to eat healthy. Eating healthy is a very, very expensive proposition, right? Because, when you are looking at, I will eat this hamburger from McDonald's that may cost $1 versus a $5 salad. And, when you're weighing your budget and, and all of this, sometimes, a lot of the times, that dollar hamburger is going to win out over that $5 salad because you need to allocate those other $4 to something else. And so what things can we do? I want you to tell us about your product and how it works and how wonderful it is. And I remember when I was on your podcast, The Vitality MD, you talked to me about how you felt very, very run down and very, very tired. And this product has really, really helped you to invigorate your life and to recapture, not necessarily turning back time, but to recapture that energy and that vigor that you had when you were a younger woman. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes. Well, wow, you really encapsulated it. So what you said about, you would have to eat all day. It's because nutrition works, and it becomes us. But its ability to put out, say, the fires of what you mentioned earlier, oxidative stress. Think about it. It's rusting. Mm-hmm. That is oxidation. What do we breathe? We breathe oxygen every day. Every breath comes in. And that causes that free radical damage or oxidation or oxidative stress because the oxygen, it has an unpaired electron on it, and that causes that I don't want to get too sciencey.
Yeah, but that becomes that free radical, right?
Yeah, it causes a cascade of reactions that ultimately lead to our internal rusting. Or think of it when you cut an apple, right? Mm-hmm. That apple, as soon as you cut it, that inside flesh is so fresh and moist and bright color white. And then as the air interacts with the flesh of the apple, it turns brown. Well, it didn't turn brown when the skin was covering it because the skin was protecting it from the oxygen.
Right.
So you'd have to eat 8 pounds of broccoli sprouts to do what you can do with just swallowing a blend of herbs in 3 seconds. Okay, so 8 pounds of broccoli sprouts is probably not possible.
That's an all-day job. I'm
GI
telling you.
distress, right?
Right.
And it's expensive, and it doesn't taste very good, at least after the 3rd pound, probably.
Right.
And guess what? Because it's food, when food is combined with that oxygen, it also produces free radical damage. It's kind of it's helping put out the fire at the same time as it's stoking the fire.
Adding fuel, sure.
So I have because this is a kind of a complex topic, and there are other pathways. I have an educational group for your listeners who are on Facebook. I'll give you the link to the group that's direct, if you like, and people can go in there and learn.
Hold on one second, and I'm going to put it right on. I'm going to go to my Facebook page right now, and I am ready for the link.
Okay, and I make it a tiny URL because it's just shorter. So tiny URL, tinyurl.com / vitality, VITALITY, the number 4, life. So tinyurl.com / vitality for life. That'll take you directly to the group, and I ask your people to just say where you heard about it from and mention your program. And then we'll get you right in and get you educated. But there's a news report that actually aired in 2005 that talked about it. Because when it was a biotech company way back in the early 2000s that said, well, we can reduce oxidative stress by almost half. Well, if you know what oxidative stress is and you know what antioxidants are, you think to yourself, well, that's a ridiculous claim. Nobody can say that,
Right,
right.
Because it doesn't it's intuitive, it just doesn't make intuitive sense.
Right. So guess who came knocking on the company's door? ABC Primetime. It's like 60 Minutes or, NBC Dateline. When those programs come knocking on a company's door, usually the CEO is running out the back door with his briefcase over his head going, no comment, no comment. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened is they're like, well, we need participants for our study to prove this, right? So they took an Emmy award-winning journalist's blood, John Quinones. Mm-hmm. He's won like 8 Emmys. They took his blood, and they had said it's by 40% in 30 days. He came back in 12 days because they always have to throw a wrinkle in. And you know what? His oxidative stress had come down to the level of a healthy newborn, 45% reduction in 12 days.
Wow.
And he said he was sleeping better, he feels better, he had more energy. Mm-hmm. And you had asked about me, and I had the same exact thing. It didn't take 12 days for me to feel better. It took a little bit longer because everybody's different, right? But
right.
Boy, when you take oxidative stress out of the equation, it's not about how old you are. It's about how much oxidative stress you have.
Right. That's right. Yeah, because, I see, I talk about the face a lot and the oxidative stress that affects how we look, how we appear, smoking and exposure to the sun and so on and such things. And, we talk about, melanin being protective for our friends of color. But that's not the only thing that goes into that. And that's not solely protective because, of course, as we have talked about with other shows, skin cancer does happen in people of color after they have had that type of UV exposure. But, that's one of the things that we can see. Like, I see people all the time who are my age, and I'm looking at them like, we're the same age. And I'm gonna, and I'm going to confess here, and my mother's listening, and so I know she's going, I don't have the best diet, because of what we do for a living. I don't have the best sleep hygiene, right? I'm an ER doc, and so I'm eating however, whenever, as fast as I can, and not really taking time to digest properly. So, I am not doing all of the healthy things that I need to do in order to live my best self, but I still notice those differences in, what people put their bodies through. And, when I talk with people and find out, what they do for a living or the kind of life that they've been living, I can say, in my own mind, I would never say that to a person like, oh, okay, I see why you look like you're 65 and you're 50.
Yeah, people earn their appearance, right?
Right. And, and unfortunately, that's a thing of circumstance, that some people have to, work out in the sun and do those kinds of things. But, it definitely is something. So let's see here. I have it up. So Vitality for Life Facebook group. So that is on the Medical Minutes with Dr. Carissa page for those who want to join and check that out and learn more about how you can decrease your oxidative stress and feel better and be better. I don't think that this is just something that's esoteric, because, we talked about the wrinkles and that kind of thing. And after a while, that just becomes very, very superficial. But the reason why I wanted you to come onto the show is because this goes deeper than fixing wrinkles. Right.
Exactly.
This is something that really can help people live a better life, perhaps even longer. But definitely in the days that you have to be well rested, because, just think about how you feel when you get a good night's rest, how amazing that feels. And what if you could have that amazing feeling every single day from today on?
So true. In fact, lowering one of the most common, I call them side benefits to reducing oxidative stress is people sleep like they used to, and they dream and they wake up rested. And what I love is that it's really within most people's ability to invest. It's less than $2 a day. It's $1.67 a day to nice. Radically change your cellular DNA's expression, and that's all we are. It's a bunch of cells. So
right. And as those cells, if we can keep those around longer, like they talk about telomere stress, right? And that as you shorten your telomeres, you're getting closer to the end of
guess
life.
what? And guess what shortens telomeres?
Oxidative stress.
Bing, bing, bing. Yes. Yeah.
So there it is.
I was going to say it's just so exciting and invigorating to know that you can address so many problems. You know, those wrinkles, that gray hair, the lack of sleep, the lack of energy, brain fog, all with just addressing the one root cause of it all. Mm-hmm. And it's just unbelievable to me that I didn't find out about it until, my doctor told me about it 9 years ago.
Wow.
I was kind of almost mad when she told me about it. I'm like, why haven't I heard about this?
Well, and that was one of the things, because when I did my research for this show, there was a lot of initially it seems like there was a lot of opinion within the medical community that this was fluff. Right.
Yes,
because we're hardcore scientists in medicine. And so, there's that. However, I did see, was it the New England Journal of Medicine? Major medical journals are now turning attention and giving some conversation space to nutrigenomics, that this is a real thing. And I think that is encouraging, when we in the medical community, when the scientific part of our community, can embrace something new and present that out. I think that it's really, really a good thing, because, of course, we all want all people that we come into contact with to live their best lives and be their best selves. And so, it really is being taken seriously, by major medical journals. And that was very encouraging to see that, it was in places like the Lancet and New England Journal of Medicine, just to name a couple hard-hitting medical journals. So, so this is definitely not, this is not fluff science. This is a real thing that people are really giving time and money into investigating. And I think that is wonderful. So now, in the last few minutes of our segment, Dr. McKee, anything else that you would like to share with us?
Well, yes. I just think one of the things that you had mentioned, the studies, and if you look at, we were talking about the dozens of things that are good for you, ingredients like ginger and turmeric. If you look up those on where the doctors go for their research, which is PubMed.gov, PUBMED.gov, and you'll find thousands and thousands of studies on them. And what I love is that this blend that John Quinones was, trying out and really trying to debunk, that news report actually sparked a flurry of research in independent medical schools and universities. And to date, there are 31 that have been published, 28 are on PubMed. And one of them was done by the National Institute on Aging, which is part of the NIH. They've been trying to find inexpensive and non-invasive ways to extend healthy lifespan. They study mice because humans live too long to study that. Right. But they found that nothing that they tested that wasn't a drug ever was able to make that claim, that it extended healthy lifespan in mice in the three, they do it in 3 different locations to make sure that it's real and true. Right. But this did. And they even underdosed it for the first 10 months of the mice's life. So I feel confident that my health span is going to be longer than it would have been if I wasn't doing this. Right. And I just love that I can share it with the people that I care about and help them as well.
Exactly, because we want us all to live well. Well, Dr. McKee, thank you so much for taking your time to be a part of our show today. You are now a part of the Medical Minutes with Dr. Carissa family, and anytime you would like to come back and share with us, you are more than welcome to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shawn Weaver McKee, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Carissa.
We just had a very powerful and really informative session with Dr. Shawn Weaver McKee, the Vitality MD, talking about how we can use a supplement to decrease our oxidative stress, which will prolong our cellular life and make us feel better. And so I'm going to tell you all, I am going to get this supplement myself and start taking it. And I'm going to report back to you all how I feel from time to time, and just let you know, because as I've told you all before, I believe very, very much so in transparency. I want to practice what I preach, and if I recommend a product, it is because I have used it myself, and can report it from a firsthand perspective. Right. So in everything, prevention is the key. Right? Because we talked about the reasons or the ways that we cause oxidative stress. Now, oxidation is a natural process. And so, that is something that we cannot really control in its totality, right? But there are things that we can do. And, that is one of the undercurrents of this show, is empowering people about their lives, about their bodies, about their health, so that they can live better and be better. That is what my goal is in presenting information to you all week after week. And I hope that you all are taking what you need and going with it. So prevention is the key. And you've heard me say before that, we can pay attention to prevention, or we can pay attention to disease. But one way or the other, one of those things is going to capture your attention.